As the population densities in cities increase, we are increasingly building higher density developments. However, higher density development could look like this, or this. High density developments could feel overwhelming and may have very narrow spaces with very little sunlight. So, how do we design high density developments while preserving the sensory experience of the area, especially in terms of sunlight, wind, and human scale? These questions have been explored and addressed in the design of this project, which I will be discussing about. As I go through the video, I will explain the steps taken to address the issues related to light, wind, and human scale. I will also present the final design outcomes and discuss to what degree has this project been successful in achieving those aims. The project brief was to design a high-density development in area of Battersea in London. The area of the site is 2.3 hectares. The area will be mostly residential with some commercial use. The red boundary outlines the site area for the project. In order to fulfill our aims, background research was done to establish the key design principles. The design principles shown in the screen form the backbone for the design guidance. The screen shows 3 key distinct areas related to sunlight, wind, and human scale. The points underneath each headings show what can be done to improve the corresponding aspects. The initial point of the design process was the formation of conceptual ideas. Sketches were done to experiment with the shape, forms, and angles. The sketches helped to show how different forms could deal with the sunlight, wind, and human scale. But it also gave ideas relating to how the buildings will look and how easy or difficult will it be to build the different forms on the site. The rectangular form with tall and narrow portions towards the north, shorter buildings towards east, west, and south could probably be sunlight and wind efficient, help to achieve human scale, be practical to build, and also look relatively good. The next process was to test different forms and shapes relating to the sunlight and shadowing, and the wind. Progressing further from the initial sketches, the first shadow analysis test involved checking the impact of heights of the shorter buildings on the overall shadowing. Option 1 shows the heights of the shorter buildings increasing progressively towards the north. Option 3 shows the heights of the shorter buildings decreasing progressively towards the north. Option 2 shows the mixed approach. The shadow analysis showed that between 746 and 1546, option 3 casts more shadow into the courtyard. Option 2 also casts some more shadow into the courtyard than option 1, though the difference is very less. Overall, the height of the building is directly proportional to the amount of shadow cast. As you can see from the analysis that the tall buildings towards the north, because of its position, cast very little shadow into the courtyard. The option 1 was chosen because in this option, most taller buildings are placed. The second type of shadow analysis tests the impact of orientation upon the shadow. All the blocks shown in the screen are of the same type, that is, the type of block chosen from the previous shadow analysis test. Option 1 shows a pair of blocks rotated 30 degrees towards the north, placed in parallel. Option 2 shows the 2 blocks placed in parallel without any rotation. Option 3 shows 2 blocks rotated 30 degrees towards the north. They have differing strengths. Option 1 allows the most sunlight into the streets, but it also occupies the most horizontal space. This may pose a challenge with our aim to create high-density development, that is, creating more units in less area. The relationship between blocks also feels more disjointed in Option 1 than in Option 3. Overall, Option 3 allows the most sunlight in the northern elevation face of the buildings during the evening, where most of the residential units are concentrated, and for this reason, Option 3 was chosen. Finally, a third type of shadow analysis was done to see the impact of different massive styles of the taller buildings. Both Option 1 and Option 2 occupy equal volume. In Option 1, most of the mass is placed on the sides. In Option 2, most of the mass is placed in the center. The analyses show that there is very little difference between the total amount of shadow cast between the two options. Option 2, however, casts slightly wider shadow. In addition to this, Option 2, because of the shorter and standard heights facing the west, is expected to be better for the dispersion of the westerly winds arriving from the west. The final design consists of 2 blocks. Each block has 24 separate buildings in a perimeter block formation. There are 21 commercial units, 73 one-bedroom units, and 292 two-bedroom units. That gives the total number of units of 386 per block, considering the area of each block being 0.65 hectares. The net density, without including the road and site works, will be 566 units per hectare. Without including the public on-street parking, there are 80 secure car parking spaces in the ground floor. Floor land use pattern. Most of the ground floor units are commercial as marked by the red color in the plan. The residential use is shown by the yellow color. The service areas are at the rear as marked by the purple color. The brown color shows the car parking area. As can be seen from the ground floor plan for access provision, almost all the residents within the block will be able to access the rear of the ground floor from inside the house. Residents will also be able to access the rear of the ground floor without entering the building. Any access not from within the building is secured by gates. The vehicles can enter the ground floor from the northern side. Residents will be able to enter their flats either through the stairs or through the lifts from the ground floor without having to go outside. As marked by the green line, the roads surrounding the block will be shared road. The road is blocked with bollards on the western side to reduce the vehicular traffic flow. The commercial units provide active frontage and overlooking in the eastern, western, and southern side. The easy access and the servicing area towards the back means that human activity is expected to occur at the rear, which should provide periodical overlooking and surveillance. Similarly, the single-aspect residential units should provide active frontage and surveillance in the northern side. Hedges are planted in the northern side to provide buffer and privacy from the street in front of it to the residential units. The first floor of the block contains the main amenity space. All the units in the first floor are residential units, and the residents will be able to access the rear of the first floor from inside the buildings. As we can see from the section drawing, first floor will be used as outdoor amenity space, whereas the ground floor will mostly be used for servicing and car parking. The design of the road is based on the guidance provided in Manual for Streets. The central lane is 5.5 meters wide, which allows for 2 cars. There is 2 meters semi-private space characterized marked by the hedge, to allow for privacy and mark private territory. The side lanes are at least 3 meters wide to make it easy for people to walk. Despite the markings, there is no change in road levels. The use of same road material, both for pedestrians and vehicles, mark it as a shared surface. Plantings, seatings, and on-road parking spaces are provided. The northern side is residential area. The material for the shared surface in the northern side is different than the others to mark it as such. As can be seen from the elevations, the building frontages are highly active. Every upper floor units have front balconies. The glazed winter gardens or conservatory links the 3 tall buildings and provide much-needed upper floor amenity spaces. Large windows allow plenty of light into the rooms. Most buildings are up to 5 stories or lower to maintain human scale. The ground floor retail units have higher floor-to-ceiling heights to make it more usable and to make it easier to focus human attention to those shops. The corner plots have windows in the side elevation to provide surveillance and create active frontage. Overall, the scheme delivers good urban design principles. The upcoming portion of video will show that it also delivers on sensory design related to shadowing and sunlight, wind, and human scale. The shadow analyzers show that all areas of the block receive plenty of sunlight. All 4 elevations of the block and almost all corners of the internal courtyard receive good amount of sunlight. Due to low heights of buildings, the street between the blocks also receives plenty of sunlight throughout the day. The wind analyzers show that the area generally feels comfortable with regards to the wind. Wind speed below 8.3 meters per second is generally considered to be comfortable for walking. As for the design principles for designing against the wind, the buildings have variable heights. The angles and space between buildings are appropriate to allow the wind to disperse. The westerly winds hit against the narrower elevation of the tall buildings rather than the wider northern elevation. Therefore, the wind pressure on the walls are lower. As a result of all of these design tweaks, uncomfortable wind tunnels and wind vortex do not fall. Most of the wind speed at ground level is below the benchmark of 8.3 meters per second required for comfortable walking, as shown by the results of the simulation. The area generally feels of human scale and is comfortable. Most building heights are limited to 5 stories. The ground-to-ceiling height is higher at ground floor level. The buildings and streets are integrated by the shared surface. The lower elevations have more detailed frontage, including different projection and recessions of the elevation. Sometimes, different colors are used to focus the human attention on the lower floors. The floors above 5 stories are assessed so that they are not visible from the street level below it. Overall, the scheme shows that it is possible to preserve the sensory experience in high-density developments. As discussed previously, the scheme delivers the good urban design principles regarding surveillance, security, function, land use, activity, and amenity. It also provides good daylight and sunlight, comfortable wind speed, and comfortable human scale.
Finally, I hope that you enjoyed the video. The walkthrough coming up gives a flavor of what it would be like to walk along the street of the area. The walkthrough also concludes the presentation at the video. Thank you and goodbye.